Hi, thank you so much for coming, everyone. My name is Lucy, and I'm a management and marketing major, and also work as a student fellow at the Blackstone Launchpad, and we'll be moderating this panel of lovely ladies. And so let's get started. I guess we can start with introductions.
Hi, I'm Jessica Sarkisian called Rezzio that helps students like you gain the skills you need for when you graduate college and start to look for a job.
You're good. Okay. Hey guys, my name is Silberman. I'm the Chief Cookie Officer of ChocAmo. And I started this company when I was back at Drexel. It was kind of an entrepreneurship project during one of my years there, and I just fell in love with entrepreneurship, and I'm sure as many of you guys are also just really big foodie fans. I grew up in a family where food brought people together, so through the experience of cookie shop classes, able to help make people smile and bring people together, so thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ritu Jadwani. I'm a current student here at the Global Fashion Enterprise Program. I started my company in Namaste, New York City 4.5 years ago. We do hand-block printed clothing and scarves, and we work with skilled artisans in the villages, and we train differently abled women for sewing and hand embroidery, and these special women are the ones who hand sew all our products.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna Simpson. I'm co-founder and chief product officer of Diagnostics. We develop and manufacture biodegradable and water dispersible diagnostics. Our first product is a fully flushable pregnancy test. It was designed to reduce the amount of plastic waste ending up in landfills and provide women a higher level of discretion and privacy in their testing process.
Okay, so I guess to dive more into the company, like what do you do exactly, how it started, why it initially became a business, like was this always the plan, I guess?
So my platform started when I went to Drexel University. I always knew I kind of wanted to start my own business. I would always make jokes to my family saying, I'm just going to invent something, be rich, and that's it. Come to find it's not that simple, right? You have to create a business plan and do everything like that. My goal was to really, when I was in high school, patent something and just become rich. But obviously it didn't work out. So when I went to Drexel, I found I was always looking for ideas on ways to make money. I started a couple platforms. One was like a trash bag idea, it didn't work out, and then came across this idea within the classroom. So when I was in one of my classes, we were talking about the future of jobs, and that was the whole premise and platform of it, and we had to create a video resume. So my platform actually started from a video resume company, where I was in the class, we had to make a video resume, and I looked around at everyone, I was like, I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like making a video resume. Why is this so difficult? Who can I pay, essentially, to make this video resume for me? I don't feel like doing it. And as I looked around, everyone kind of felt the same way. Nobody felt like doing it. So that's where I found essentially the market. There was a need. Nobody felt like doing something, but how would they pay for it? And I found most likely they would. We did pivot from the video resume concept and then came to the skills development to help you guys, help students find the skills they need. But it all started like from a Drexel classroom and from a homework assignment of you have to make a video resume, and then went from there. I could go into more detail about that. I'll speak more.
So the idea genesis moment for me actually happened in 7th grade. I was in a public speaking class and we had to think of an idea. Cookies and milk was America's favorite snack for many, many years, even before I was in 7th grade. But me and my friend had this idea, why not have a cup made out of cookie that you can drink your milk out of? No mess, no cleanup. We weren't really big fans of doing dishes. So fast forward a few years, it's something that came up again in my college years. And my professor looked at me after class and said to me, this is really unique, why don't you go and try it out? So I went back to my dorm room, flipped over muffin pans, took Nestle dough. I don't know how it is for you guys here, but our kitchens in our dorms were pretty terrible. So one side came out burnt to a crisp, the other side was still cookie dough, only half of the oven was working. So those were the beginning days, but now, as much as I love feeding people, I've actually become a cookie engineer. There's a lot of equipment, a lot of customization that goes into putting a product out into the market. And since this product has never been scaled before, we've actually had to work with companies in Thailand and in India and US-based companies to figure out a way to scale the production. And I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I came into Drexel thinking I would do something in nonprofit, and then I worked for one for my first co-op and realized it wasn't really where my passion lied. I think what I really want to do is a for-profit business now, and later on take some of the money that I make and put it into a foundation. But I really love food. I love that it brings people together. I love that you can get creative with it and it leaves a lasting impression. But this is way more than a dessert company. This is an experience company. And I actually just hired someone new today to spearhead our catering division. We're really excited. We're going to be doing on-site event activation. So like these fire roasted s'mores, except on a crazy display. And we're going to do all types of ice cream sundae bars and stuff like that. But it's really cool because it's a way for us to share the story, market the product, but also reach the customer all the way to the end. So that's just it in a nutshell.
Wow, that's inspiring. Well, for me, two things inspired me. While growing up in India, my mom would design our clothes and take us to the local seamstress and have them stitched. In India, weddings are a very big affair. You have probably 3 to 4 occasions. You need different clothes for all the occasions for fancy pictures. So my mom was very good at designing wedding clothes, wedding outfits for us, and that's one thing that inspired me. The second thing was when I was in high school, there was a massive earthquake in my region, which led to a lot of loss of life and property. A lot of people lost their jobs, their houses. And that started a social movement of empowering women by teaching them to hand embroider, hand sew, to generate income opportunities for them. So I knew at a very young age that my career is going to be revolving around design, but I didn't know what exactly. So I applied for interior design, architecture, fashion, and then I decided to go to fashion school, studied abroad, traveled the world, looked at the market, and got back to India and started looking for skilled women artisans who could help me make my products. So we started from very basic tassel jewelry, handmade stitched bags, clothing, menswear, and slowly started focusing on just hand-block printed clothing and scarves. So yeah, I think the credit goes to my mother and the social movement which I saw in my town.
So my background originally was in product development and manufacturing of high-end jewelry. After college, I went to Temple for my undergrad, and after college, that's where I was working. And I have always wanted to make products that help people. So I knew that if I was going to make an industry change, I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur, but if I was going to make an industry change, I needed to go back to school. And I met my co-founder in our graduate program at Penn, and the concept for Leah actually came out of our work there. It began looking at sustainability in the medical device industry, and slowly started focusing in on talking to women about their experiences from a human-centered design perspective, and realized that not only was there all of this plastic waste being discarded in the medical industry, specifically in one-time use diagnostics, but there was an unmet level of discretion and privacy in the pregnancy testing process. And the two made it together really well. We have a background in sustainability and material science, so we realized that we could swap plastic for paper and make something that would biodegrade but also fall apart in water and be flushable. And when we graduated, the concept was just a folded piece of paper. It was a looks-like prototype, and we're both actually Temple alums, so we kept pushing it forward on the side as we were doing other freelance design work, and we pitched at Temple's business plan competition and got some initial traction, basically that validating that not only were we the only people that thought it was a good idea. And so at the beginning of 2015, we got into the Joint Ventures Accelerator here in Philly, and at the end of the year raised our first seed fund. We bootstrapped the whole first year, didn't pay ourselves salaries. We entered every single pitch competition we could find just to get non-dilutive funding, and that got us to a point where we could get proof of concept, raise some money, and finish out development. And last November, we got our FDA clearance on the first product.
Awesome. Could you guys talk about more of the challenges or setbacks that you guys have faced starting out?
So I would say I had a lot of challenges within my product. Again, we started from a video resume platform and we changed and made pivots within that. So I would assume most people here are looking at entrepreneurship, right? That's why you're here. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
Some for class. Some for class.
Some for class. So I'm going to target this to the audience as if you guys are looking from an entrepreneurial perspective. So when you're told to create a product, you want to make sure that there's a market for it. So we created the video resume product, and I thought it was great. People would show their personalities. You'd be able to get hired better because they could see you're articulate, be able to show off some of your personal skills. And what I found is it did not work. The market was not ready for it. One, there absolutely was not a market for it in general. Nobody wanted to make one. Nobody wanted to buy one. It spent more time on creating one and spent more time on the for the employers to view them. So it didn't cut down the hiring process at all. But then we kind of found the problem within video resumes wasn't creating the video resumes. Nobody knew what to speak about, and nobody had the skills to speak into a video. So back to the original question of what challenges they are, it's more pivoting the product to find the proper market was the biggest challenge we had. Other challenges we had were funding. It's absolutely terrible when you have no money. Development problems, because I'm not technical at all. I'm just entrepreneurial and coming up with a concept and finding the market and finding where it fits best. But could I actually code out a website? Absolutely not. So I think the biggest challenges I had was pivoting to find the market. We just recently landed on our new concept and final idea in January. So we're starting from scratch, and we are 3 months in from scratch, essentially. So being able to pivot and then staying consistent with it, but then also not being ignorant to the fact that it could at the same time fail. I think a lot of entrepreneurs think their idea is the best and greatest, but the market's not telling them that. So they stay with it, even though it's probably not going to work. So pivoting with the market, and the biggest challenge I found was not being technical. How I solved that problem, I guess, would be the next question or some sort of it, is I had to physically go online and go through Coursera, Pluralsight, and learn how to code myself. Learn enough base level knowledge in the industry that I didn't know to be able to convince someone to join the team, or to talk in a way where if I went to hire someone on Freelancer, I'm not getting, I guess, screwed over because they're charging me $1,000 to build up the website I'm looking to do, but I know nothing about database structures, right? So the biggest challenge I had was having to learn the technology. Finding the market was number one. Two is now my biggest challenge is learning the technology, and the challenge I'm coming up on is developing and proving out the concept and finalizing it.
One of my biggest challenges has actually been myself. So it's very difficult sometimes when you're your own boss to wake up in the morning, get yourself to work, make sure that you stay on task. You always get sidetracked cleaning something in your kitchen. So not just that, but it's really hard, especially as a solo founder. I don't really have someone to share that load with. So it really helps, after this, I'm actually, once a month I go to an entrepreneur meetup at WeWork. It's a mastermind, and it really helps because it has entrepreneurs from all different industries that get together and chat about what's bothering them. It took me a lot of personal development to get to where I am today, to the point where now the personal development is one of our core values in the company. We actually have 10 core values, cookie cups, the P's for personal development. So that's a big one because I think I'm a student in life forever. There's always going to be room to grow. So whether it's watching TED Talks or listening to books or reading books, going to seminars, always, always, always I recommend you invest in yourself. Whether you're going to get a job or have your own business, you want to stay on top of things and always be slightly out of your comfort zone, because if you're there, that's what I call the area of magic. The magic happens outside of your comfort zone, and the more you play outside of your comfort zone, the bigger your comfort zone becomes, and you become a problem solver. Because you could plan things out to a T, but if all of a sudden crisis hits and, I don't know, one order got messed up and it was going to Florida, or someone lost a bunch of batches, let's say in our kitchen or something like that, you have to be quick on your feet, but also in a way where everyone around you is still going to respect the way you handle the situation. I've had times in the kitchen where things went completely wrong. Like, something was wrong with the oven once and everything got stuck in our molds. We lost like 800 cookie cups at a time when we were making maybe 1,000 in an entire day. It was like a really big loss in the beginning. And I remember going to the bathroom just so I could take a breath and not freak out in front of my team. And I came back and I handled it. And afterwards, one of the girls on my team was like, Michelle, I would be losing. I would lose it if I was you. I don't know how you kept it together. And I was like, well, it's not easy, but you also have to become a leader. So that takes me to the next challenge, team. An amazing thing. At ChocAmo, we actually have a ChocAmo family. We all have really fun names. I'm the chief cookie officer. We have a cookie ninja, an event guru, a cookie marketeer, the dough master supreme that deals with the money because it's funny. But it's really important to be able to maintain that. And I've actually had to hire a coach to teach me how to set up the culture in the organization, because anyone that interacts with the company or anyone that becomes part of the company, even if it's for a small period of time, the best metaphor I've heard was, imagine anyone that joins you in your company is like a babysitter. This is your baby. And when you step out of the room, whatever characteristics that person has, your baby is all of a sudden going to learn. So you have to really be careful about who you pick to come onto your team, but also you have to create a really fun educational experience for them. It doesn't matter that I hope to get people that are better than me at so many things, but you always have to stay a few paces ahead because you want to keep them excited and on their toes, and they need to understand the vision. What is the point? Why are they here? It's bigger than just a product, right? There's a whole reason behind it. I really liked what you shared about your story, and it made me remember one of the big reasons that I'm in business and why I do what I do is I'm first generation American. A huge chip on my shoulder from it, because all I heard growing up was how my family came here with nothing. My grandfather, for example, came before my grandma, my uncle, and my dad, and he was interviewed on national television in a suit, and at night he slept on a park bench. And that was the start of my family in America. So that story inspires me every day. It helps me wake up. It makes me know, like, I came here and I need to do something really big. I need to honor the sacrifice that they have given in order for us to have a better life. It's kind of up to me. So being in tune with your why, being able to get back on the horse, even when it's hard, that's the part that counts. There aren't always going to be celebratory moments. You're going to have your highs and your lows, but just strap in and figure out how you're going to deal with yourself emotionally, and then how you're going to deal with the people on your team. Because they could come in and it's hard to leave their personal lives at the door too, so you need to learn to be very emotionally intelligent. So those were some of the challenges, among just even creating the product itself, which was a huge challenge because at first it just wasn't working. I was using pre-done batters. I was pressing cookie cups by hand. I would make like 40 in 3 hours, which is crazy. But we just moved kitchens. So there have been a lot of advances that we made technically. But really what's amazing is that no matter what business or industry I go into after this, I take my people skills with me. I take my product development skills with me. I take my networking skills with me. And I really think of this business as an investment in myself and my personal development and all the people that come in contact with the company.
Wow. That makes my job even more tough. So, a few challenges initially which we faced were, of course, getting the team together. I remember walking into random garment stitching workshops in India full of men, pattern masters, sewing masters, and I would go to them like, hey, can you make a sample for me? Can you do my production? And because of my petite frame, I would be taken for granted. They wouldn't take me seriously at all. They'd be like, oh, this is just a kid trying to start a business. She's not going to do anything. So I would say getting the right team together is the first challenge I encounter. Second, because all my products are handmade, I'm asking a particular price for it, which is of course higher than H&M or Forever 21. So convincing people that, hey, it's worth the money, I'm not charging you anything higher. And plus 30% of the profits are going back to my artisans directly, so it's not like I'm keeping all the money with me. So creating an awareness for handcrafted products in a developed world was my biggest challenge, because I would say 70% of our customer base is United States. People who have probably not seen a lot of crafts, it's not their fault because it's a developed country. In India, in every town we had hand block printers, hand embroiders, so it's very natural to see crafts around you and to be able to charge a price which is appropriate. It's actually fascinating to see sometimes my competitors earn more money by selling in India and I earn less money by selling in United States just because the awareness is not enough. Again, personally, when I look back, my parents are very well known in the city of Ahmedabad, from where I come from. So it was quite a challenge for me to prove to everyone, like, hey, I can do it on my own instead of taking all the help from my parents. So I would never go out and tell people like, hey, I'm so-and-so daughter and I want to get this work done, because in India, everything works through contacts. If you know people, then your work will be done. So it was very important for me to shed that image and march on my own.
So I think what's been mentioned already is exactly what I would echo. Obviously, fundraising was our first main challenge. We'd never seen a term sheet before we started our company. So that was just a huge learning experience, and really understanding, and then really surrounding ourselves with the right team and partners that would be invested in us enough to teach us so that we could know the aspects of our business ourselves, to really become negotiators and make sure that we were maintaining control of our company as we were taking in other people's money. And then, really building out the right team was truly important for us for the first 2 years. It was just two of us. We're a team of about 5 now, with a few other contractors here and there. But making sure that we're surrounding ourselves with the right people. About 1.5 years into our development, we found out that the partner we were working with was in over their heads. They didn't have the experience they told us that they did. And we were at the point where we had to bring everything in-house and learn it ourselves and find new partners, or we were going to run out of money and not have a company. So that was a big teachable moment for us. So the team and building partners and fundraising, and then just really becoming the self-work that you mentioned is really important, because you need to learn every single aspect of your business so that you do have the credibility to talk to contractors and hire the right people and sound like you're an expert in your field and be your own subject matter expert. So those are really some of the big challenges. And then the only other thing, and I'm sure, being at a school like this, everybody knows when you're making things take, double or triple as long as you think that they will. So those are a lot of the challenges that we faced. And right now we are facing the challenge of scaling up our production with the manufacturer and automating equipment and looking to launch.
Great. So I know Ritu covered this a little bit, but how has gender played a role in you guys, kind of having challenges in finding resources, funding, etc.?
So my experience with gender and challenges has been minimal. I haven't really seen me being a female really affect anything I've done. I actually have found it become somewhat of a benefit, because there are events like this one, there is organizations like AWE, there are women-focused events where men can come, but they're really focused on the power in women and helping women, scale companies and do things like that, that have really helped me kind of take my platform to the next level. And it's really surrounding yourself with women who are willing to help, and there are a lot of women out there who are willing to help. And not, I guess it's gonna sound a little weird, but when you are a woman, you see another woman, you do want to help them more, and not in the sense of male, but so you do see that community, especially in Philadelphia. There are a lot of programs. So I haven't had any challenges from being a woman. I've actually had very positive experiences from it. I don't know about everyone else on the board. I'm sure they have different opinions on the matter, but I've had very positive experiences from women. I have never seen anything negative come out of it. Yeah.
I have a mixed experience, so there are times that being a woman has actually made it a little bit easier to stand out in a room of male entrepreneurs. As simple as that, right? When we're typically, this is a really nice panel, but it's typically not so female heavy. I will say in fundraising, it has been a really big challenge. A lot of the challenge is within myself. Women are more scared to ask for money, according to many statistics. Also, most of the people I've pitched to are men. But there are some statistics that really are in our favor. Kevin O'Leary on Shark Tank, all of the businesses that he invested in, the only ones making money are female run. Women are able to do a lot more on a smaller budget. We're really crafty, we're really good at bootstrapping. It's because of the way our brain works. We like to connect different ideas and things, and I don't know about you ladies, but I've done so much in trade and collaboration just to get the business off the ground. I was able to do a lot with very little money. But I did land my first investor about a month and a half ago, and it was a relationship I was building over a 3-year span. It was actually a mentor that the president of my school introduced me to, and I was so uncomfortable to ask for money, but we would meet, and at one point last fall, he was like, by the way, I think it's time that you put your pitch deck together. He held my hand through the process. I don't know how I would have gotten started on that had I not had a mentor like that. So on one hand, it's a little embarrassing that that's what it took. On the other hand, I'm extremely grateful to have built such relationships and mentors that want to help to that level. He took me to different pitches. He had some of his friends look at it so that I could get it all in order. And then when it was time, he was the first one to sign a check. And once you have one person that believes in you, it really helps with the conversation with the rest. It gives you a little confidence. It gave us a little bit of a runway, but it definitely has been a challenge. And I will say also in sales, I think it's more of a personal issue. I don't want to pin it on being a woman, but sometimes I have trouble closing and asking for big numbers. I always feel like maybe this is too expensive, or maybe it's not worth this, or just have this whole conversation in my head about it. And sometimes I see sales reps, they could be women or men, and they're just really great at closing, but I know that I need to get good at that part to take it to the next level. And one more thing I'd like to say, as a woman, it's up to you how you present yourself. So how you dress, how you act, how you get meetings, that's up to you. There's a proper way of going about it. I've met women entrepreneurs that don't necessarily go about it in the proper way. It's really about how you feel about it, looking at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day. But I once had a scenario where I was at a networking event, and it was a great contact for me, and when I contacted him to meet, he really tried to make it into a date. And I had to be very clear in the conversation leading up to it, oh no, let's not do dinner, let's do lunch, or let's grab coffee, we're gonna talk about business. And when I got there, he actually apologized to me, and he said that he had recently been through a divorce, and he was very sorry for coming on so strong, and he appreciated how I made it about business. But ladies, it's up to you. It's very, this is just anyone as a student. I think this is an age thing. It's very easy at your student age to come up to someone that is very seasoned and say, hey, I'm thinking of going down this path. Would you mind if I pick your brain over coffee sometime? Coffee on me. The cheapest advice you'll ever get. Because if you sit down, I've sat down with the heads of huge companies before, and they were willing to do it just because someone introduced me, or I was a really motivated entrepreneur. That is the card that you play. But you do have to be careful as a woman, because at networking events there's alcohol and so on, so I don't want to say that it's not an issue. I've seen it be an issue for other people, so it's definitely something to be aware about. But like Jessica said, there is a proper way to use it, and it can also help you stand out.
Use it. For sure, use it.
Well, I guess I have mixed opinions too. So I come from a state of Gujarat, which is in west of India, where entrepreneurship is seen in women or boys as young as 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. So it wasn't a shock when I said I wanted to start my own business. There was extremely full support from my family. So I found myself lucky there. But again, it's also expected to get married and have kids at the age of 22 or 23. So I have high school friends in India who probably have 2 kids now, and my parents were not pushing me, but the society in general is pestering them. Instead of let her work, please get her married off. So I guess that's one place where gender does pull us down. And like I said earlier, that I walked into factories full of men, felt intimidated, and escaped from there, and probably never narrated the account at my home to my parents, otherwise they would never let me go out. But again, I fell into safe hands, so I tried and looked for co-ops who mainly work with women, because I just feel it's more safer being around women. Yeah.
So we've had mixed experiences. I think a lot of it has been good. We've proven ourselves to be, very smart, capable entrepreneurs, and people respect that. But starting out, I think it was less being a woman and more being a young woman, that a lot of older men didn't think that we knew anything, didn't think that we were capable of it, were very skeptical. And I'll say one of the things people ask me about pivots, and we really haven't pivoted since we started our company. And the first 6 months of our company, since nobody believed that we could do it, we spent that time taking advice from people, having people tell us to work through different business plans that they thought would be more successful for us, and we did that. And it was welcome advice, but we got to a point where we realized that everything we were hearing we'd heard a million times already, and we kind of knew. So there's a little bit of a learning curve to kind of believe in ourselves and what we were all about. It also being having a female-focused product, pitching it, we had to learn how to read the room, because not everybody is going to understand that privacy matters for women when they're testing for pregnancy. So my co-founder does most of our fundraising, and she became impeccable at reading a room and reading the person that she was talking to. And if he, kind of squinted and looked skeptical at the product, she would shift gears and say all of our other value propositions, whether it was sustainability, whether it was a lower cost of goods, anything like that, to retell our story in a way that would get them on our side. I will also say that this community in Philadelphia has a great community of female entrepreneurs and people that want to support female entrepreneurs. There's a lot of really exciting stuff going on right now. It's a great place to be to start a business as a female.
Great, thank you. Michelle, you touched on having a mentor. How exactly did you find them, and if any of you guys had mentors throughout your process, please?
So I have yet to find a mentor. I think Michelle spoke about it earlier, where I guess some of the problems are just like asking. So I have a hard time asking people to do things for me for free, because I do value their time in a sense. So if someone is very busy, like, hey, not that I feel uncomfortable asking them for an hour to meet with me, but I do feel uncomfortable asking them as a mentor to jump on a project, have the learning curve, to really learn what we're doing, the way our databases are set up, our technology is run and built. For someone to actually learn the ins and outs of our platform is going to take them about like 5-6 hours of research. For me to ask a business professional with no return on investment to be a mentor, I've had a hard time just straight up saying, hey, can you be my mentor, and just spend 6 hours learning our platform and then give us your feedback once a month for an hour. So that's probably been one of my biggest problems to this point in our development, is finding mentors, but I'm excited to hear what the rest of the panel says to see if I can get any ideas.
Well, the one thing I would say, to flip it a little bit, would be that whoever that person is, they're an expert in their area. So I actually have multiple mentors. Some I go to for sales, others specifically for the restaurant industry, another that's a female entrepreneur. So even people that I admire relationship-wise or in life and many different things. So you have a person that's an expert or do something really well. If you admire them and if you really want to learn from them, I think they actually want to give their time. So, I mean, having someone learn something specifically for your business might be a little bit different. That's maybe a little bit different than a mentor. But finding someone that's an expert in a particular area and asking for their advice and time every so often, I think they want to give it. Because if there's someone that's successful, it's very likely that someone else did that for them, and that's how you pay it forward. And something that I've learned is I've been a mentor, I've been a peer leader before while I was in school, I've been a mentor to younger students, and I know when I'm going to be in their place, I always say to them, I can't wait to do what you're doing for me right now, I can't wait to do for someone in the future. And if you come from gratitude, it makes it a lot easier. And that's actually, I was kind of on the hunt for a mentor, especially in the food space, and I had this amazing luck of sitting down for a meeting with the president of Drexel University a few years ago, and he looked at me and asked, how can I help? So I asked for him to connect me with catering at Drexel and a mentor. The higher up that person is, you can think the higher up their friends or the people they'll connect you with are. So the best thing you can ask for is, who should I meet with next? I am worried about how I'm going to build a team. Do you know someone that's really good at that? Can I meet with them? That's kind of the idea. And another piece of advice that was given to me early on is, if you ask for money, you'll get advice. If you ask for advice, you just might get money. So I'm living proof of that right now. But I would really recommend, even while you're in school, if you're struggling with a class, get a mentor. If you're struggling in an area of life, get a mentor. If you don't want to call it that, call it something else. But it's really like a friendly exchange, and they get a lot out of helping you as well. It feels good to them, and you'd be surprised they learn a lot from you too.
Thank you. I would say be very proactive when you're in school. During my undergrad, I used to volunteer and go to teach municipal school kids during my first year. And this was with one of my faculties, one of my professors at school. After my undergrad graduation, she went on to become my mentor. She taught me how to talk to people, how to deal with communities, how to interact with women. So I think it's all about being proactive. And secondly, I volunteered at a fashion show again in my undergrad. And later on, that industry expert was kind enough to give me an internship after my program, and he still is a mentor. So connect to people and ask for help, ask for advice while you are still around, while they are around.
I totally agree. We relied a lot on our networks from the universities we went to, which everybody was very much willing and helped us out as much as we could. One of the examples I like to give is one of our engineering professors at Penn helped me. I designed a piece of equipment that closes our device without the use of glue, and he's a mechanical engineer by training. So I asked him for a little bit of help. Took him to lunch, asked his help, and he ended up working with me a couple hours a week to prove it out and get it to where it is now. The other thing is, just ask your contacts who you should meet, and they'll make the warm intros, and those are the best. And one of our mentors from our incubator gives really good advice about building that relationship, and she calls it a 3-touch system. So you meet the person, whether it's a warm introduction or a phone call or a networking event, that's the first touch. The second touch is the follow-up and ask for a coffee or something else. Within a month or so, it doesn't have to be immediate, everybody's really busy. But then the third is, maybe 6 months later, following back up, and you never know, as many people as you do that with, you never know what's going to become more often occurrences, and just staying in touch and asking for advice.
Okay, great.
I have a class at 6:30.
Okay, well, Ritu has to go, but feel free to either contact her, she's on campus. come to the Blackstone Launchpad. I can give you her contact information. And yeah, so thank you so much for coming.
Could I actually add something to the entire, to the mentoring aspect of it? So the way I view, there's two types, I guess, I think most people would agree, there's two types of mentors. You can have like a personal mentor and a business mentor, and then there's a mentor you actually sign contracts with. I don't know if you guys have had those types of mentors yet, where they can actually gain equity from becoming your mentor.
We're in the process of building out the advisory board right now.
So, to what I was speaking to earlier is mostly that, but I do want to touch on the point that they all spoke on is building your network. So go to events that aren't even related to what you're trying to do, and just, even if you have casual conversation with people, and they just really like your personality, then you could find out a lot. I think the best feedback I've gotten in networking I've done is come from working at a daycare. I worked at a daycare part-time to make money, and the parents of the kids happen to be teachers or high-up administrators for Drexel University, Villanova, and things like that, where I watch their kids, right? So they actually spend time, and they'll take like an hour to sit down and speak with me. So kind of finding those outlets to kind of find your network within that. But as for specific mentors to sign contracts, I struggle with that, I guess.
Awesome, thank you. I guess I'll open up to the audience if you guys have any quick questions.
How do you make yourself feel comfortable with networking? You might be at a point where it's already second nature to you, but when you're starting out and you're building your network and you're getting to know new people, how do you build that confidence to reach out and introduce yourself and talk about what you do?
I'm really bad at it. I'll say one of the things that helped us as far as like cold outreach was we had a contact through Dreamit that gave us advice on, whether it was a cold email or something, how long to keep it, what to put the first line, if it is a contact through someone else, to use that person's name in the subject line, things like that. And I think, just warm introductions really, really help too. And then the more you go to networking events in person, the easier it gets. You can kind of learn what makes you comfortable approaching people out of the blue.
Do you have a business?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so then just go to the events, and this might be silly, but write a list of questions ahead of time so you kind of know what you're running through your brain. Networking, there was a study done once, and I read this in a book. Someone was sat on a plane next to another person, and they were instructed for the duration of the plane only to ask questions. And if the other person asked questions about them, they would revert it back to asking questions about the other person. When they got off the plane, the person they were sitting next to was surveyed, and they asked, what did you think of the person sitting next to you? They said that was the most interesting person I've ever met in my life. So think of it that way. It makes it a little easier. People ask why you're at this event. I've had friends that, my brother, for example, is in an entrepreneurship program at Drexel, and he always says to me, Michelle, I'm nervous to go to those events. I don't have a project to share. So I tell him, you have ideas, and you have a lot of friends that are up to stuff. So just say you're trying to figure out what industry you want to go into. You just want to meet people that are doing what they love. That's it. It makes for a very warm opening. I think for me, it was kind of second nature, but I had been working on public speaking since I was a kid. I definitely wasn't comfortable. When I was young, I was pushed out onto stage to dance and sing in front of many people, which was so uncomfortable. I'm really grateful for it now because it helps. But if you get uncomfortable, go to the edges of the room. Take a breath, take a moment, go grab a drink of water, go to the bathroom if you need to, come back, and then if you don't get energized by being around a lot of people, do it in bursts, or go with a buddy. It'll make you feel more comfortable. But even if it's uncomfortable, definitely do it, because with time, you'll get more used to being uncomfortable in that way, and my business would be nowhere without the networking piece at all. And I'm sure you ladies can somewhat agree, if not completely agree. I won't speak for everyone here, but it's a really big part of it.
I think when you do something for the first time, it's like super uncomfortable. But then once you do it once, it's like golden. A part of like my pitch on our platform is gaining these skills, so gaining the networking skill and interpersonal skill, the networking skills, and we're trying to teach it. And I have a video as one of my examples of the first time I ever public spoke, or the first time I was on a panel like this, and it was absolutely terrible. And it was uncomfortable. It was just like I didn't know how to speak, I didn't know virtually anything. But if I didn't make that mistake once, then I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now. So try it, you're going to fail, you're going to probably be terrible at it. That was at least my experience. I remember the first person I had to go up to and shake their hand. I was like, oh, what the hell's going on? Like, I have to shake, just like, hi, I'm Jessica, like, I don't do anything, I go to school. But I would say just do it, and then the second person you shake their hand, you I've had very awkward encounters at networking events where you're just like, hi, and then you just stand there and it's food, and then find talking points. If you always bring up drinking, you always bring up food, people are down to talk. So those even if I'm not drinking that night because I just don't feel like having a glass of wine, I'll hold one. Or finding like a talking point at that event to say, oh, the weather's nice outside. It really does help. No one says no to talking about alcohol and food most of the time. It was just sad, but so kind of just finding those weird things and realizing you're gonna suck at it at first. Someone might not. I don't know who that person is, but good for them. Most of us, I suck at it. So you'll figure it out. Just keep doing it. The more you do, if you go to 5 networking events a term, you'll be better than if you go 2 a term and then 2 the next term. Then you're still going to suck because it's going to take you 5 to not suck, in a sense. That's probably not the proper vocabulary, but.
The other thing I'll say is the more networking events you go to, you'll start to see friendly faces. So if you met someone once before, you can go up to them first, and they may be able to introduce you to somebody who could be valuable for you. So it becomes more comfortable if you start to build a community, even if it's at kind of disparate events.
I completely agree. Practice. Cool for them. But yeah, I have to leave because I have class, but I just wanted to say thank you everyone. Thanks for coming. And yeah. Thank you.
Question over here. Jessica.
Yes.
I just want to know, since yours is a platform that involves development, how have you gone about that, being that you're not a technical co-founder? I don't know if you have a lot of money. How much has that costed you, or how have you funded that?
So it was miserable. Most of the platforms I know up here were more product-based, but I would assume most of the ideas in your brains here are technical. And with no experience, we had absolutely no funding. What kickstarted kind of our development is going to a business plan competition, pitching the idea, and winning $5,000, I think. So the business plan competition started us off with $5,000. And what I did with that money is I absolutely wasted it. Because when you are ignorant to how things run, you don't know how to spend your money. I'm going to bring it back to Shark Tank for a minute, because we all know who they are. Damien, he speaks about a lot, you always hear them bring up in Shark Tank, how having a lot of money is the worst thing that could possibly happen to a company. And I completely agree with that, because if I had $100,000, I would have gone all in on development, and video resumes was not our product at all. And not only would I have gone $100,000 into development, I would have spent it in the wrong way because I didn't know how to speak technically. So speaking to, I guess, what was the end question is?
So, like, how did you fund that?
How did I fund it?
What did you end up paying?
Yeah, so I had $5,000 from Drexel, ran through it, I went on freelancer.com, tried to hire someone international, I think they were from the Philippines, the first round, wasted it. I didn't know how to talk to them technically, so I said, I need this built by this date. And they were like, great, let me build it. We're gonna use this, that, and this server. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I don't know any of this. I barely knew what HTML was at that point. And I think I did that a couple of times. I was family funded for another $5,000 did the same thing over again. I was like, I'm going to make it this time with a new technical developer. And it wasn't until December when I finally realized, girl, you just got to learn this yourself. Nobody's helping you. Not that they're not going to help you, they don't know how to help you. You need to just do it yourself. So what I did most of my December and going into January is I just online classes. And I had to self-fund some of that. So one of the courses was like $500. Another one, some of them are like $40. So really just working at the daycare and kind of taking that money and bringing it back to paying for these courses. But I wasted a lot of money. I would say like $10,000. Not being technically sound. So if you guys are looking to develop a technical platform, you have to know something or have a co-founder. I just don't have a co-founder who's technical. So if you have a friend who's really good at that skill, figure it out. And now I can talk to you all about HTML and CSS and how that's virtually not even that intensive a technology. That's really just your homepage. How SQL databases and Python and PHP are, the movement. I didn't know any of this before December, so learning it. I'm running out of money, so I don't have the answer for funding. I'm literally running out of money. I have to get to a proof of concept point with the minimal money I have left, or we're just going to fail. So it's an ongoing struggle. It goes back to the problem. I think building technology company without technology skills is the hardest thing you can do. Because it's without it, I don't know the solution for. I don't know the solution for everyone. I was fortunate enough where I had friends and family able to fund a little bit of it. But if I didn't, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So,
hi. I have a question. I don't know if any of you are already LLCs or like legitimate. I don't want to say legitimate, but like proper companies, like a corporation company. If you are, when did you figure out to do the switch or like to actually register with the government as a corporation? If you're not yet, what do you think that final time would be? Is there a certain point that you knew?
So I'm an LLC. I haven't switched yet, and I'm sure they haven't.
We're a Delaware C Corp because, two points there. Funding, apparently it ebbs and flows whether investors prefer LLCs or C Corps, but when we incorporated, and still investors look for C Corps. The other part is protects the founders a little bit more if you're going to get grant money, things like that. So when we first started, we thought we were going to be like fully government grant funded for research-based things, and the C Corp would have protected us from liabilities on that. But yeah. I established my LLC really early on. Once I knew that I wanted to take this seriously, that's when I did it. And then I got the trademark on the brand probably a year or two after when I had the funds to do that. But I think that is one of the important parts. Once you start putting a product out into the market, even if it's somewhat of a prototype, you want to be able to protect yourself, and you also want to be able to roll it up into a brand name.
I would say if you're thinking of starting something, you don't really. On my product itself, those are a little different because they're changeable products. I don't know if we needed to do it as early as we did. Because we weren't generating revenue, we weren't signing contracts with the school. We're literally a prop tech product and handing it to a student here and saying, use it. Once we have contracts and terms and agreements and all that stuff with universities, 100% we're going to start getting money in. I think I did it a little too early. I did it in 2015. We probably didn't need it until now.
Although it is nice to have a separate bank account.
Yes.
Chapters.
Oh yeah. No, actually,
that's why.
That was the most important. So maybe do it early. Yeah.
I had a question about. I know if you mentioned scale being a deciding factor in how you consume capital. What would you say overall is a deciding factor between continuing to bootstrap or receiving funding from VC and such?
Proof of concept. If you have a product that's proven out, then you can go to VC. not they're not going to talk to you prior, but you're not really going to get funding prior because it's too limited?
We're still not VC funded. We have angels, investors, and high net worth individuals who invested in us. It was necessity, and making physical products, it's a lot of capital costs, so we knew we would have to raise. And then we had a couple of mentors that ended up as investors that really helped coach us along through that process.
It's a little bit scary to trust, right? So that's the part, like, I definitely was uncomfortable with it. It helped a lot that the first true investor was a person that I had known for a few years, so that's not always the case. But you get to a point, and my friend said this to me, he said, do you want the whole pie or a small piece of a much bigger pie? So that's the idea. Money is energy, so when you infuse that into the business, if used properly and still with care, you can do a lot more. You can market more, you can hire people, even if it's just for a trial run. You can just afford to make a little bit, you can afford to move faster. And that's, I think, a really big thing, but at the same time, you don't want to take that on too early when you don't actually know what you're going to do with the money. Right now, I'm talking to one VC firm. I thought they were angels, but they ended up being a VC firm, which is kind of interesting. But what they said to me is they're specifically interested in the food and beverage industry. And a lot of times, food and beverage companies, they want to get money just like tech companies, but when they get the money, they don't know exactly where it's going to go. And I think it's industry agnostic. That's just an issue that people don't figure out. That's where my anxiety lied for a long time when it even came to asking for money. I know where it's going. I'm still scared to spend it because I feel like it goes faster than we want it to. But I want to be semi in bootstrapping mode. You just have to be smart with how you do it. But I am very picky about who is my investor. I'm not just looking for cash. I go to the bank for that. I'm looking for strategy. So I think.
Yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing. Don't take on more than you're going to need because you're going to lose more of your company. But also look for quality investors. We look for investors who are engaged with us, that want to teach us, that want to be mentors. Because otherwise, I mean, some hands-off investors are great too. You never hear from them. It's awesome, but it's better for you as an early stage company to have somebody that, they have skin in the game. They want to see you succeed. They want to, help propel you forward as quickly as possible. And once you have a few people in the door, you're more de-risked at that point, and so other people will bite, and they'll connect you with other investors that they know, and the ball starts rolling a little bit faster.
Do you have a product in mind that you're specifically asking that for? Is it a product?
Yeah, so not exactly. So I happen to work alongside 3 other women of color who are in the startup world. We're developing an app to on-demand barber service. So in talking
On-demand, sorry, what?
On-demand barber service.
Okay.
They're based in DC, but getting to know more of them and like their challenges as women in the industry, growing curiosity of what it looks like to pursue things like such. And I know one of the things that they become more open to with time is even considering things like boot camps or like incubation, where they kind of still have some level of control. And I guess even further, what I'm thinking your brains about is like how you maybe overcome those fears about letting somebody into something that, like you mentioned, is your baby, but also at the expense of like being able to grow and expand. Because in the position I'm in now, like I'm pretty much like doing pro bono work with it. Yeah. It's not an issue, but I know like ultimately they want to be in a position to hire with like have a full running, business.
I want to caution, not to say don't help them, definitely continue to be doing, worst case, you're building amazing skills. Are you doing the development end of it?
Mostly design work.
Design work. So from a technology standpoint, to get to a certain point, especially with technology, I need funding because I don't have a technical co-founder or someone who does pro bono technical work for me. There is a way if you can find someone that you don't really need funding until you get to a certain point because you are technology, so your overhead costs, like they have to pay per pregnancy test, per cookie cup, that they have to pay that out to get it back. For technology, you just need to build it, right? So it's a little bit different on how much cash you need. Your lifeline isn't based on cash in technology, it's based on kind of just the product in general, and if it's fitting the market. I spoke about the market earlier. So for your case specifically, I wouldn't hold your breath on them paying you anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I think I'm aware of
Yeah.
the place in the company is not as like.
Yeah.
No, I'm asking these questions. You're just like, oh, I'm trying to.
No, but I mean that you should think of that. You should think of like, what's my return on investment for helping them out? Like you
It might
should,
be a resume builder, and that's
Yeah.
fine as long as you're aware of it.
Yeah, but you should have these questions in your mind, like, wait a minute, how long am I going to be in this company? How long until I get paid? What's my projection? The skills you're developing are awesome, right? You're working in a bootstrap company, so you're not just learning your design skills. You're learning how to run a business. You're coming to an event and asking about fundraising. So you're developing all these skills around it, but then seeing where you can take it next, I guess.
I would recommend for you to recommend to them to find a mentor and figure out what's the best fit for them, someone that can take a bird's eye view of their business. I don't know if investment is the right next step for them or whatever it might be. It really depends on how that business is run and what they need the money for. Maybe they could do something in trade. Maybe they can come to an event and do a pop-up barber shop. And then some company will give them in-kind services. So just think about how far you can get on being creative.
Are they sort of gaining revenue yet?
No.
No, okay. Yeah, so then I do it.
I had a question, but I think you guys answered it. My last question was, can you share a little bit about the early days? What did that look like for both of you? I know you can also share, but like, what did that look like? Because it seems like you guys have come a long way now. You have built out teams. But what was it like with employee 1 and 2 and 3? How much were you producing?
So we got into the incubator, which was great because we were not entrepreneurship majors to start with or anything like that, and we need to learn how to split up equity and how many co-founders you actually have. We started out with 4, which was basically nothing, and Ray told us that, but 2 full-time, which are myself and my co-founder. So we had some nice office space in the Science Center for free with the incubator, which was great. But after that, we were squatting at the University of Pennsylvania's campus for about 3 months until school got back in session. And then we were paying $300 a month in rent in it's actually great, if anybody needs office space, it's a great building, but what they built out for us was a basically floor-to-ceiling plywood cubicle in the middle of a hallway that had no floor. And it was my co-founder and I in there until we raised enough money to get a little bit more of a legitimate office space. We had a pretty cheap storefront for a while, and it was still just the 2 of us. And then now we actually we found another startup that similar industry but not directly related, but they're a little bit older than us, and they have a lot of revenue, and they rent a space super cheap. We've kind of just had we've been scrappy about our space, but we've also gotten lucky with some people that we've gotten hooked up with to give us space.
When I started the business, it came out of an entrepreneurship class at Drexel, and even though it was my idea, there were people that were part of that presentation team that ended up jumping in just because I was taking it forward. They ended up not being the right fit for the company, but that was kind of a weird thing that happened very quickly when one of them bailed because her family didn't let her continue working on the business. The others thought that's it, threw their hands up and left. Fast forward 4 years later, I'm still standing and have a whole new team, and I'm actually a co-op employer, which is really cool because I was in the co-op program as a Drexel student, and it's very different on the other side. So every 6 months we get a new cycle of interns. So that's been an interesting experience.
We love the co-op program.
Yeah, we love it. But at the same time, it takes a lot of time and energy investment in a person to get them up to working speed. So it's a bit challenging to have to switch every 6 months, but on the other hand, if they're not a good fit, they cycle out in 6 months and you learn a lot. So this is my 3rd time hiring co-ops, and I've gotten so much better at the onboarding process, and I'm excited to keep getting better at the onboarding and the interview process, all of it. But also now I realize I'm starting to build a team that is going to stay with me. I'm not just looking for interns. I need people that can understand this in and out, so that when we have interns on board, there are people that can help with that process, not just me. I found myself last term, Drexel-wise, I was managing like 4 co-ops, and that became my full-time job and took away from the sales of the company because I'm the #1 sales rep. It's been very interesting. I found people on AngelList, I found people on Indeed, I found people at networking events like this. I always open the door and I say, if someone's looking for an internship, even if it's not for my company, we work out of the same incubator and there are lots of companies looking for interns. So it depends how people want to learn and grow and if they want to get involved. I've got interns like that. It's been amazing. I thought about it today. I had a quarterly review with the guy that runs our incubator today, and I was thinking back to how I started. And when I looked at Drexel, I looked at their incubator, and it ended up being funny, but there was a guy from my town that was in the incubator, and I tried on that hat, and I thought, how cool would it be to be at Drexel University, go to that school, and have my company incubate there. And about 3 years ago, I remember when I asked for office space, they gave it to me, and I cried when I got to office because it was my dream. And now me and Jess are still there. There's some alum there. We're probably going to have to move out in a bit. Yes, we really like squatting there. Yeah, a lot has changed. The early days were really scrappy, but I really love it. That's part of the story. I think that's part of the value that I can actually bring to a meeting with an investor, because I understand how to take a small sum of money and stretch it out properly. But on the flip side, now I need to learn how to spend it properly as well. So I'm really grateful for those days, and I intend to look back on this day today and say, wow, I can't believe this is where I was in 2018. It's crazy. Time flies. So much happens. I can't even recognize myself from a year ago. My birthday's in about a week, and that's a really good time to like reflect on where you were at that time. And I just don't recognize myself, and it's only been a year. So change happens fast if you work on yourself.
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference between the early days and now is personal development. So I would say, though we are starting brand new with a new concept, since like January, December, I essentially did fail a company. It took me about 3 years to fail that product line. And so from where I am now, from where I was the early days now, I could probably bootstrap and start this company. My goal is to within 8 months get it to product market fit. When the early days, it was more about, you're just not handed, but you're just starting this company from scratch. It's like, what the hell is going on? I have to form an LLC. What is that? I have to, create a website, get a domain name, kind of just developing these skills. When now I think all of us, if they said, if anyone came to us or we wanted to start a new company, it's like, great, I know these 5 things I need to do: get an LLC, get a domain name, create a logo. When I think the early days were all figuring out how to do that. I remember my family owns a restaurant in Philadelphia, and I go to my aunt who runs it. I go, well, who does the design? How do you get someone to create this logo for you? She's like, there's people for it. I go, what do you mean? Who actually does it? It's like a weird thing. Like everyone's like, get a logo. It's easy. It's not easy, right? And I'm even sitting up here like, learn technology or find a co-founder. This stuff is not easy to do in the early stages. Is figuring out how to navigate that landscape. Finding a co-founder, I still haven't found one, but finding someone to join your team. I'm sure since the members on the board all have team members, the first team member they brought on was absolutely terrible. Mine was as well. But now the next time I bring someone on, I kind of, through that personal development, understood what not to do, and now I can probably figure it out. So scaling this platform should take me not 3 years like last time. It should take me a lot short, like half the time.
Hire on trial basis, always. Yes. That's my new rule. I have a 3-month rule, and then we sit down and we can talk about compensation or if you're going to stay, because unless you build that in, it gets very uncomfortable to let someone go.
And I would say being accountable too. Me and Michelle were literally desks next to each other, and we talked about hiring people and bringing them on. Yeah, and just even saying to them, saying up front, we're going to meet in 3 months. that's uncomfortable, right? And then actually scheduling that meeting in 3 months and sitting with them and looking them in the eye and saying, it's just not working out. The first time you do it, you're just like, I don't want to do this, right? Or even setting up that meeting. Nobody wants to do that. But it's actually structuring it and being a business is probably the hardest part for development.
So if you were to attribute choosing projects and
The success, I'm sorry?
yeah, if you were to attribute 2 things about yourself to the success of your business, what would they be?
Interesting question.
I would say for me, it will be confidence and persistence. Even if I'm wrong, I think I'm right. So I will allude to you that my product is doing such a great job with this, that, and some other things. My video resume company thought it was the greatest idea in the world, so everyone convinced people it was the greatest idea in the world too. It wasn't, obviously, it failed. So confidence within that, and then staying persistent when I don't want to see this fail, and I will do whatever it takes to not see it fail. I actually, so Cedra up here, I actually know I was at his sister's wedding in December, and I actually started taking the class the week after it. So what I had to do is post his sister's wedding, I had to go straight back to the city. And the next day, extremely hungover, still had to wake up and spend 10 hours of doing work on data analytics, and then spent that entire week taking a class from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then working on that weekend on what I just learned. So consistency and like making sure, enjoying yourself. Like I don't miss weddings, right? But making sure my persistency within it, that nothing's really going to stop me from achieving or failing, but at least learning the skills and then the confidence saying, I know what I'm talking about, even though I may not.
So for me, I'd say one of them is people skills / networking, and to break that down a little bit more, your sphere of influence is extremely important. Jim Rohn says you're the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with, so choose wisely. The people I spend my time with has changed a lot, and it keeps changing, and the people that I'm friends with a lot of them are entrepreneurs or very successful in what they do, because I want that energy around me. If you have one of your friends complaining about the boy that she swiped on Tinder and it didn't work out, and that's like 90% of the conversation with that friend, you could love that friend, but maybe it doesn't serve you best to spend a lot of your time there. So that's been a big one, and it was really tough to cut down on some of the friendships that I built when I was young, but if they're not bringing up topics, or if they're not bettering you, if they're not excited with you for what you're up to, it makes it very challenging to hold on to those friendships in the same quantity of time. And the second one, I would say I'm really stubborn and I'm still at it. That's a big one, because there were moments where I thought I would walk away and quit. It would be much easier to get a job, 75, 100K a year. I could probably get that now with my level of experience. It would be a lot easier sometimes. But then I think back to the moments where I was in Drexel Co-op, and after 6 months I was bored out of my mind working at a wonderful company here in Philadelphia, because it wasn't mine. Some people are meant to be a number 1 in their company, some people are meant to be a number 2 or 3, and that's fabulous. Figure out what role that is for you. If you're a little too scared to steer the ship, maybe you want to be the number 2 and help ground that person that's a little bit in the sky. Like, I'm such a visionary, I need people that ground me around me. So I literally, when I hired someone, I asked him to be my number 2, and he was like, I feel like you're proposing to me. I'm like, I am. I really am. That's what you need sometimes. So yeah, the people, and just keep at it. The tough days, know who you're gonna call who's gonna like perk up your mood, and that's the big part.
I just want to second, I know neither of you have co-founders, but finding that second person, one of the big things about entrepreneurship is know your role. So my co-founders are CEO. I would be a terrible CEO, but we're a very good balance, which has helped us really survive the last 3 years. You need somebody that's going to be in the trenches with you when things look terrible. So I found my work wife. But things about me that have made us successful, one of them is blind optimism. I think I tempered with an understanding of all the risks, but I feel like if I would let that all get to me, I would have a breakdown immediately. So being able to kind of say, okay, well that went so well, but we're just going to keep chugging through because it kind of has to work out. Otherwise, everything goes up in flames. The other thing I would say is because of my training, it was a program that was a third business curriculum, a third design, and a third engineering curriculum. I have developed a common language between different disciplines. So having a company, I understand how to market and understand marketing speak versus talking to designers and letting them know, myself included, okay, this is what's cool, but maybe it's not going to work. And talking to engineers where you'd say, hey, that's going to work, but it's really ugly and nobody's going to want to use it. So having a common language to talk to many different types of people has been really beneficial.
And I would say if you could take one thing away from today, it would be what Michelle just said. I don't know if she remembers, but she did mention to me those 5 people, like asking her one random conversation we had. And I actually took that and ran with it, and finding a better group who do I spend most of my time with, and surrounding it with 5 people, and your world just changes. Especially being in college. I'm going to make, again, a drinking assumption. I'm assuming most of your friends are here for the socially, like going to classes, but really find people to surround yourself with or clubs that are outside your friend group to really just create that influence in your life. It really has made a whole lot of difference in mine, for sure.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm sure you guys will stick around. You guys can come and ask questions.
Or more cookie cups.
Yeah, more cookie cups. Yeah.